Hey guys, and welcome to today's episode. Today's episode is we're going to talk about the green portion of Zendikar Rising, but we're only going to talk about the rare and the mythic because these videos have been taking too long and I want to make a shorter video for this time. Just remind you, the red, blue, black, and white portions of Zendikar Rising are already out. So let's dive right into the video. Like I said, we're gonna do only rares and mythic cards, and we're gonna review those. And just a reminder, we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so anything helps. If you want to comment, share, or like this video, and if you want to subscribe yourself if you haven't done so already. So let's start with the rares. So here on the rares, we got Crackplate Baloth. This is a 5 colorless and 2 green. It's a rare. It's a creature beast that has kicker 2 colorless and a red and a green. This spell cannot be countered. It has hexproof and haste. If Crackplate Baloth was kicked, it entered the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Obviously, this is going to be a late game, kind of like a finisher. Only in sealed events or in type of draft events, because I don't see this card having any type of constructed play. Then we have Inscription of Abundance, a colorless and a green. It's an instant, it's a rare. It has a kicker for 2 colorless and a green. Choose one if this spell was kicked, comma, choose any number instead. So you put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, then target player gains X life, where X is the greatest power among the creatures you control, and then target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Okay, so it's very flexible, and green actually does need a lot of this type of stuff. Getting +1/+1 counters on any creature sometimes triggers another ability, so that's good. The fact that it fights target creature, green doesn't have a lot of removal, and this is their type of removal spell. And also gaining life is sometimes good whenever you're playing bigger creatures and your opponent has to and your opponent had smaller creatures that already dealt a lot of damage, mainly against red. It's very flexible, and if you kick it, it's just really good. So green doesn't have any problem ramping, so this card I think is better than any other type of inscriptions, because the fact that the green ramps a lot and a lot faster means that you can play all the mods a lot faster if you want to. Then we have a double-sided land. It's on the land side is Kazandu Valley. It's a land. It's a interstap. It taps for green, and the spell, it's a creature. It's a colorless and 2 green, Kazandu Mammoth. It's an elephant. It has landfall, and when a land enters under your control, it gets +2/+2 to the end of the turn. It has a 3/3. Yeah, I think this card is gonna be good because it gets pretty big pretty fast, and as you know, landfall on green, you're always gonna have a way to activate landfall if you're playing green, because you're playing a lot of lands and you have ways to trigger this, like cultivate, trigger it twice in a turn. It's pretty neat. So yeah, I do think this is a card that is gonna see some constructive play, even because the fact that you almost always gonna be using the landfall, and it gets to a 5/5 and you trigger twice, it gets to a 7/7, so that's pretty good. And that should be on turn probably 4, because you play it, then cultivate, and then on turn 4 you cultivate, it triggers twice. So yeah, it's pretty good. Then we have Lotus Cobra. It's a colorless and a green. It's a creature snake. It's a rare. This is a reprint, and whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you add mana of any color. Obviously in green it's gonna see a lot of play, and obviously in 3-color decks it might see some play, because the fact that we're losing the shocklands and we're keeping the temples, it makes you play a land and still get that mana So yeah, it's I think it's pretty good. Plus the temples lets you scry, so and that's mostly the dual lands that we have. Mostly the dual lands that we have, it's just gonna be temples. The triomes are pretty good too, and the fact that they enter tapped, and this gives you the mana to help you not lose that turn. I think it's gonna be seen play in basically almost all green decks. Then we have Oren Reef Ooze for 2 colors and a green. When it's an ooze, and when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on attacking creature with a +1/+1 counter. Yeah, the fact that it can use it in itself or any other creature that is already in the field and is gonna attack, and triggering basically twice in the turn, it's pretty good because you can go turn 2 something, turn 3 this, and then your turn 2 creature just becomes huge. I think that's pretty good. Turn 3 you're already attacking maybe a 3/3 or a 4/4. That's pretty good. Then we have Skewed Swarm for 2 colors and a green. It's an insect. It has landfall, and it creates a 1/1 insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that is a copy of Skewed Swarm. Instead, it's a 1/1. So basically, it's gonna it makes a copy of it itself, helping you later on trigger this ability more times, right? Because you're gonna be creating swarms, and you're gonna basically swarm the field with them, and just every land drop, every time you play a land, you're gonna be making more of these tokens. Then we have Swarm Shambler for a green. It's a fungus beast. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it becomes the target of a spell and that opponent controls, create a +1/+1, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. And then it has a pay 1, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on Swarm Shambler. So it itself, it already comes with a +1/+1 counter. It has a lot of synergy with stuff that helps you. That if a creature has a +1/+1 counter, you do X ability. So it does help already. And the fact that you can put more by paying 1 and tapping, I think it's pretty good because you can block with it. Obviously when it has some more counters, but you can block with it and then tap and make it bigger every turn, make it bigger, bigger, bigger. And so you have a creature that's gonna go if the match goes long and they don't have a way to deal with it, it's gonna grow pretty big. Then we have Tajuru Paragon. Tajuru Paragon. For a colorless and a green, it's an elf. It does also a cleric, a rogue, a warrior, and a wizard. Okay, so it counts as one of your classes, but it doesn't count as all of your classes. It has a kicker 3. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a card that shares a creature type with it from among them into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of the library in random order. So basically, it's a flex card because you can treat it as a cleric, a rogue, a warrior, or a wizard, trying to boost your party mechanic. And it's a 3/2. It's not that bad. I don't see it. I don't see anybody trying to pay the 5 for it because it will be 4 colorless and a green. But I understand whenever it's a late game and you want to draw something good, and you purposely put cleric, rogues, warriors, or wizards in your deck, then this might not be that bad because it's also a body, so it's not that bad. It's not like you're losing a turn. Then if we go to the Mythic Cards, then we have Ancient Green Warden for 4 colorless, green and 2 greens. It's a creature elemental. It has reach. You may play lands from your graveyard. This is always a good mechanic, especially in green. If a land entering the battlefield causes a trigger ability of a permanent you control to trigger, this ability triggers additional time. It being a 6 drop on green, it's not that bad because you probably can play it on turn 5, which maybe like a little bit later than Anissa. But the fact that you can, your landfall abilities triggered twice, or more times, because it's not a legendary, so if you have more, then it triggers additional time. Yeah, it's just additional time. So basically, yeah, you can probably stack them, and this is a MVP card right here. Then we have a Shaya, Soul of the Wild, for 3 colorless and 2 green. Power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. So it's just mega ramp, and its power and toughness is equal to the amount of lands you control. So this card is pretty good because even if you cheat it in, your creatures that you help, the mana doors that help you to cheat it in, they also become a forest in addition to its other types. Therefore, you still have very good power and toughness. And it's a green, you're probably never going to be playing it at turn 5. You're always going to be trying to play it a turn before, or even before that if possible. Then we have Turn Timber Symbiosis and Turn Timber Serpentine Wood. The land side is you may pay 3, or it comes into play tapped, and it just taps for green. And the spell side is a sorcery for 4 colorless and 3 green. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them into the battlefield. If that card converted mana cost was 3 or less, it enters with additional 3+1/+1 counters on it. Put the rest in the bottom of the library in random order. This type of cards are always good. I don't like the fact that it's for 7 mana. You can whiff, you can miss and not hit anything. It's very unlikely you're not gonna hit something, especially if you only play creatures and this is your only spell, but it's also a land, so you don't it's not a spell if you don't need it to be. I think this card is gonna see some play, if not a lot of play. The fact that it's on green, that you have a lot of mana dorks in green. Green is just great to ramp, and you have awesome payouts if you go really deep into 7 cards, and you can cast a card among them to the field. And the tricky part is that it says that you may put it into the battlefield. Therefore, you're not really casting it. So if they can't counter this, they can't obviously counter the creature. There's a lot of great cards with mana 3 or less. I don't think you're gonna be trying to fetch for like an Uru or something, because that card, just dies. But the fact that it's a mana cost 3 or less, and it gets +1/+1 counters, I think it's pretty good. So yeah, and everything else is just full art promos. So that's it for today's video. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you like the shorter format versus the longer format that I did for the other videos. And if you do, like I said, let us know in the comments. Like I said, we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you comment, share, and subscribe yourself, that would be amazing. And to remind you, this video was brought to you by Game Inc. and Dex. Links are in the description of the video. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.